Yesterday, I buttoned up the wire mesh around the doors to my hoop house and the geothermal in anticipation for the spring gardens. As you can tell, I framed in some doors to my hoop house. Originally, I only had the chicken wire, but yesterday I installed wire mesh on both doors. This wire mesh will help prevent the pocket mice from getting in. And on this side, I let the wire mesh come out an extra couple inches to make sure that when I close the doors, it seals the crack in between. The arugula that I planted, before winter, is going to seed soon. So I'll have seeds for arugula. And then I went ahead and planted red peppers, spaghetti squash, tomatoes, cilantro, jalapenos, cantaloupe, asparagus, wildflowers, beets. Here's some other arugula from the fall crop. I just planted cucumbers, carrots, lettuce. Oh, there's red romaine, broccoli, sage for when I grind my pork down, I can make sausage. And this whole corner is snap peas. Last month, I buttoned up this side of the hoop house, and it's just been really windy. And this, just a few days ago, this side tore out that more, and the cover here is on its last leg. I'll see what I can do to button that up, but it might not be repairable. And I think in the worst case, I'll just do about 3 feet of wire mesh all the way around, and I could pull the cover down for now until I do wrap it before winter. The geothermal has held up really well, I think. This 6 mil greenhouse plastic has done great. And even though I didn't have the right connectors on the pipes, so a couple of them broke apart, but they've held pretty steady. And I'm just waiting to get like a 16-foot ladder so I can get up there and fix that. And then, I think that I'll be able to get this through another season at least. I can fix those and then wrap it again, and that shouldn't be a problem in the future. For the winter, I had these covered up, which are basically vents for the summertime, because it gets hot enough that I need those open, even with the fan and the geothermal going. Again, on the wire mesh door here, I just really buttoned that up. I think that I'll put some over the vents here, even though I don't seem to have any problems with the mice getting up and into the geothermal. This plant fabric will come down soon. It's just there until it doesn't get below freezing anymore. And I turned all of the soil down here, so I mixed in the organic matter better. And this is a 16-foot by 30-inch deep row, which I planted hibiscus, and then there's loofah seeds across the back. And on the opposite side, this is all sweet yellow corn and pinto bush beans. So if you're not familiar with my geothermal, I dug down 6 feet roughly, and then I backfilled in about 3 feet of manure and dirt that I had made for my soil. And the 4-inch perforated tubing is underneath that. So there's about 2 to 3 feet on top of 200 linear feet of tubing. And then at the top, which you can't see right now because of the fabric, there's a 4-inch inline fan that pulls the hottest air down through the ground, cools it, and then pumps it back into the system. Or during the winter, I could run the system and heat the air to the temperature of the ground, which would be about 50 degrees year round. And then on the back side, I've just got a garden hose that goes to an IBC tote, which you can see there's another perforated hose that goes across to the roof of the shed. And that rain harvesting system has kept this tank full since I filled it originally. So I can simply come down here, and I'm trying to keep this really pretty wet the first few days because I just planted seeds. So I can just kind of soak everything down. And before I planted, I did this. I soaked everything. I turned it. I soaked it again. I turned it. And then I planted, just to be sure, because with all the organic matter, it almost makes the soil kind of hydrophobic. And so I had to turn it a few times to make sure that it was absorbing the water. In March, I jumped the gun a little and I hung my hummingbird feeder up there just in case any of them came by, because we had some warm days. But after about a month, it was starting to build up like, fungus or whatever, mold or bacteria. So I just rinsed it out and made up a fresh batch. So I'll hang this up here, and I just want to be sure that I get their attention as soon as possible. We've got sugar water for the hummingbirds when they're ready. I also hung up the cattle skull that I found out in the middle of nowhere. The kids are growing up really fast. I changed the transmission fluid the other day, and Brad was like, hey, does it smell like it's burnt? So I have the oil on hand, so I went to smell it, and when I stirred it, it splashed me in the face. Good news is it doesn't smell very burnt, so hopefully I don't have any issues going forward with the transmission for a long time. And I was going to show you the tape. This is the greenhouse tape I've been using. It's not cheap, but it does the trick pretty good, and I'll show you what I did out there. Real quickly, I want to give a shout out to Herbal for Life for sending in this Spanish needle, or Biden's alba. The uses are expectorant, antibacterial, analgesic, antiviral, antioxidant, sedative, astringent. It says boil 8 ounces of water and add 1 tablespoon of herb. And it looks like it's wet inside, so I don't know if it's stored in like an alcohol or it's just wet. I'm not sure, but I'll have to crack it open and take a look. Incus. Michael L., good boy, sent in one of these collars for Incus, so that's cool. All the dogs have matching collars, and these ones are really, the best built ones that I've seen in a while. Every other collar I've bought for the dogs is they break it or it gets ripped real quick. I came out here and I used my greenhouse tape to patch up. There was a rip all the way down and all the way down the side here. I did it on the outside and on the inside. And then to secure the front, I just had this clipping of the plastic that I used for a window on the shop. And I just used it to really pinch down the plastic, or to, the tarp, and hold it in place here. So hopefully we'll get one more season out of this. Next thing on the agenda to prepare for spring is I want to build a hugelkultur, and I think that right down the side of the chicken coop here would be good. It's close to the manure, the compost, the hoop house, and of course the hose behind me. It's important to be close to the hose. Another reason I think this would be a good spot is because any water that drains from the shower or overflows goes under the ground through a tube and then out here into an area which will be a pond eventually. And by going down the middle here, I could carve out a couple areas that come into the hugelkultur so that the ground in there can absorb more moisture and won't need me to water as much. And then I have this pile of branches mostly, and I have some more over behind the compost. So I think I'll bring it almost up to the pond and then all the way out, and then I'm going to bury it. I'll use some of the sand that I dig out of the pond, and then I'll use some compost and some sand and compost and just build up a nice mound, a hugelkultur that I can grow on. If you're unfamiliar with hugelkultur, it's a word, the word comes from Germany or German, and hugelkultur just means hill culture. And so I'm building with small logs and branches and then covering it in dirt, a hill that I can grow in, and just over time it breaks down inside. And basically you're continually creating new compost and causing yourself to work less. So you're making a nice area to grow. And this is going to be an outdoor thing. I might fence it in if I have any problem with mice, but this will be my experiment growing outside. I did originally build that goat pen, was a garden outdoor, and I just had a shade cloth over it, and I grew quite successfully in there once I figured out that there were mice. So I expect that it'll go well, and if need be, I can build, you know, an area that's got the wire mesh at least 3 feet up all the way around the hugelkultur. So I arranged the biggest branches in a nicer pile that allows me room to walk around. This is a compost pile, and then I've had all these, you know, mulch that I've been saving. Then I can use as much of this compost as I want to mix in with the dirt that I pull out of what's going to be a pond over here. And so, you know, you got the big branches, then you'll have smaller branches of mulch in there, then you'll have, you know, compost and dirt and compost and dirt until this is a hill. And then I probably shouldn't plant it until the end of next month. On this end, you can see that I started to fill it in with mulch. So I started burying this side with mulch. I did the entire thing. And then back here, you can see I'm starting to cover the mulch with dirt. And then I'll do another layer of mulch, and then another layer of dirt, and then I'll do compost and dirt until I get this completely covered. Here's a closer look at how close the ditch runs right past the hugelkultur, so I could carve out a couple little shots that go in there and help provide water to the hugelkultur. And then I'm digging out this area here. It's really mostly for when monsoons come. If it floods at all, the water can all accumulate here, but I plan to keep this you know, at least a couple feet of water in here year round if I can. I covered it in 5 wheelbarrows of dirt, and then I had 1 more wheelbarrow of mulch. Now I'm going to move on to covering it with compost and more dirt. The flies are definitely interested. I just covered the hugelkultur in 4 more wheelbarrows of compost, and I'm going to get at least another 4 of dirt on there in just a moment. This was where I had the mulch built up, and then you can see all of the compost I pulled out of my compost bin, and this is at least a year old, and some of it's 2 years old. When the kid goats see me, they start screaming because they think they've already been fed twice today, but they just think if they yell, then I'll get them more food, and I think they would eat non-stop if I let them. Well, what do you think, guys? This is at least 3 feet tall, and I would say about 12 feet long. Keeping in mind that this will be a spring garden, that I can't start till next month roughly. Comment below what you think that I should plant that you think will do best on the hugelkultur. Are you guys starving to death? Oh man. Here. I gotta get the new feed out, so we'll give them one of these. Man, that was a lot of work. Wheelbarrows and wheelbarrows. But I think it'll pay off in the long run. Hugelkulturs are known to last a long time. So I've got about 500 or 600 square feet of garden right now. Well, complete space. And so if you were to do the math, I probably have about 400 square feet that will actually grow garden. Some people say that in a season or in a climate like mine, where you can plant 3 times succession growing, you can sustain yourself off of 100 square feet. I've heard a lot of people say no, not really, but I have at least 400 square feet now, and it's pretty well just me. So I think we'll be pushing a lot closer towards having enough garden to sustain myself as well as meat this coming year. As I expand the rain harvesting system, I could see myself getting a couple mules and adding enough water storage and rain harvesting space. My rooster just tried to get me. That I could see myself creating more garden beds for this entire space. So imagine like maybe 16-foot long, 30-inch deep rows. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 6 rows going this way. And I could do at least 2 more rows. So you got these that come out about 16 feet. I could have 2 more rows right here that go out about 16 feet. I could do, probably 4 or 5 more this way and 4 or 5 more that way down the road when I've got enough water. So I could definitely see myself with an enormous garden so that I can provide for myself and possibly sell other produce at the market. I had somebody comment the other day. So I had one person asked me, how much are you spending on feed? So I made a video explaining how much I spend on feed. And that's what the video was about. And so I spend the money on feed, and one guy commented and said, well, it's not about the money, it's about being sustainable. That's what this is all about. And I get that. I don't know why you're so hard on me. I just came out here. It's almost been 2 years, and sustainability takes time. So you're not going to move out to the middle of nowhere with nothing and be fully self-sustainable the first year. I came out here with $6,000 and just about nothing else, and I think I've come a long way since then. Well, eventually the plan is to be as sustainable as possible, but it takes time. And right now I have 2 piglets and 2 kids. There's 4 animals that I'll be ready to harvest within months. And then we've got the hoop house, which is just packed full of stuff now. We got the geothermal with corn and hibiscus and loofah and all kinds of stuff. And then we've got, the chickens, of course, their eggs, and this HUGELKULTUR now. And we'll be growing outside. And then, like I said, could you imagine all the space I just showed you? If I was growing that, that would be a massive garden, which would be way more than enough for me. Well, that's about it for today, getting prepared for spring. Remember, if you want to get something done around the homestead, get out and do it. Hopefully I can get a thumbs up from you guys. Please subscribe, hit notifications, put the little bell on, and that way you won't miss the next video. Comment below if you've got any questions, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.